A very good early morning to you all, captains, and welcome aboard. This is your captain speaking, Captain Simwings, and on today's flight I will be continuing my FlySafair Airlines career progression, which is being simulated through the use of a Pilot's Life Chapter 2. And right in front of you, as you can see, today we will be flying the PMDG 737-800, which is the passenger variant of the 737 range. And today's flight takes us from a flight leaving OR Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg, and we will be heading to George Airport right down by the coast. So we will be utilizing Beyond ATC for our realistic air traffic control, self-loading cargo to manage our cabin operations, and GSX for all the ground services. Just a side note, on the self-loading cargo I will be using the simplified version of self-loading cargo, and that being the airliner mode or the audio mode, where audio will just be simulated, therefore simulating the cabin and the cabin crew as well. We will not be using the interactive version, as we do have some reservations on that. And then, as a disclaimer, this is a simulation, so certain procedures will be streamlined for pacing and entertainment. And in order to maintain focus on aircraft handling, the radio communications will be dedicated to the Beyond ATC AI assistant right after we complete our pushback procedures. So please note that while I am aiming for realism, minor deviations from standard operating procedures will occur. So get ready for an immersive experience as we navigate the skies together, and let's begin. Awesome. So we have a nice and early flight today. We've got the sun coming up, facing west currently. The camera is facing west really. So the sun is coming up. It's around 6:11 in South Africa at the moment. So it's a very nice early morning flight. Let's hop into our aircraft. All right. Let's head over to our overhead panel. Got a bit of a dark cockpit today, so we are going to turn on our flashlight and then proceed to turn on the aircraft. So we're going to start by turning on our batteries, then our emergency lights, and then turn on the logo lights, the position lights, as well as the wing lights. From there, because we do have ground power, we will be turning on the ground power. And with that being turned on, we can hop to our ADS panel, and that's where we are going to find the dome light, and we can turn it to the dim position and turn off our flashlights. And then we can turn our IRSs to the nav position, and then just wait for the align sign to ignite, and then flip it to the heading, and then we should give an estimation of how long it's going to take our IRSs to align, and it's giving us 7 minutes. Awesome. Clear that, then head on to our tablet and then just call in our flight plan for today. Like I did say, we will be flying from Johannesburg, and we will be making our way right down to George, which is at the coast of South Africa, right down there. So we are flying into George. Just wait for this and let's have a look. So we'll be flying down to George. All right. Okay, and then before we're going to proceed with any other details, let's just request for refueling of the aircraft, the catering replenishment, as well as boarding. So we're going to pull up GSX, request for refueling. South African Airways can do this.
Refueling truck is on its way.
And then we are going to request for the catering services.
Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do it.
And then also request for boarding.
Boarding requested.
While that's happening, we can just have a quick look at our flight plan for today. So we are leaving OR Tambo and we're heading to George. Our expected time of departure is at 0500 Zulu. That giving us almost 45 minutes until we have to depart, and then we've got an additional 20 minutes set aside just for taxiing and pushback procedures.
Catering vehicles
We
are
are
on their way.
expected to arrive in George at 7:10, so it's going to be roughly a 2-hour flight. Yeah, so we will be taking 2 hours on this journey. So for today's flight,
Do you want to board crew?
our cost index
Crew
is
boarding
67.
starting. Please don't load
Our
aircraft
average
until the
winds
fuel truck
are coming in
arrives
from
and ask to do
220 at 16 knots, and we've got an average wind component of minus 17. This indicating that we do have a slight headwind ahead of us, so we will be taking a bit of a hit on the extra fuel that we are carrying. And then our average deviation ISA is 9 degrees, and our allocated cruising altitude will be 32,000 feet for this flight. Our takeoff weight for today is 71 tons, and that's just a little over or under 8 tons from the maximum takeoff weight. So we are a very heavy flight today, and that's intentional. For our fuel, we will be carrying 9.5 tons and 10% extra fuel, just to have enough fuel for extended taxis and any extended holds, as well as the need to perform a go around or divert to our alternate airport, that being Cape Town. As we can see, it's indicated over there. We're going to head over to our charts, go to our departure
Your crew
charts,
has boarded.
and then just request the airport
Passengers
chart
boarding starting.
and pin that. And then we are going to do the same for the arrival airport and request the airport chart. Under our pin charts, we open our departing airport chart, and I just want to take note of the ATIS frequency, that being 126.2, and I've got that noted on my spreadsheet. And then for the arrival airport, the ATIS is on 126.22, and I've got that noted on my spreadsheet as well. And then back to our departing airport, we've got clearance delivery on 121.7, and that's going to be our clearance frequency, where we will be requesting clearance for this flight. Awesome. Let's tune into the ATIS frequency, have a listen to today's weather conditions, and get a glimpse of what the takeoff runway will be for today. So I'm tuning in into ATIS on 126.2. And while the ATIS is being read to us, we can just hop outside the aircraft to see what's happening.
Johannesburg Airport information popper 0407 Zulu. Wind 130 at 3. Temperature 10. 2.06. QNH 1027. VFR condition. Landing runway 03 right. Departing runway 03 left. Transition level 080. Advise on initial contact, you have information popper. Johannesburg Airport information popper 0407 Zulu. Wind 130 at 3. Temperature 10. 2.06. QNH 1027. VFR condition. Landing runway 03 right.
Alright, and that was our ATIS for today. So we are expected to make our takeoff from runway 03 left. Got temperatures of 10 degrees. We are approaching winter in South Africa, so it is starting to become a little bit cold. And then we've got a QNH of 1027. We can key that in so that we are aligned in terms of our altimeter settings. Awesome, let's head back to our charts. We're going to go to our flight plan first. Head on over to the routing page and let's have a look. So our first waypoint after we do perform our takeoff is the HGV waypoint, so I am going to note that. And our last waypoint before we begin our arrival procedures into George is the GRV waypoint, and we don't have a star planned for arrival, so we're probably going to be vectored in, and we're doing vectors to our initial fix before approach. Okay, So let's go to our charts and let's search for our departure. So we're going to go to the SID page. HGV is Heidelberg. We are going to look for that, and then this Heidelberg is covering 21 left and 21 right. Let's just have a look if we don't have 03 left and 03 right. Okay, so we don't have a SID for departing on 03 left and 03 right, so we might just be vectored out of the airport, or airport airspace rather, after we just perform our takeoff. Alright, with that in mind, we can then tune into our clearance airport and then just request for clearance for today's flight. So clearance is on 121.7, and then we can tune in and just request clearance for today's flight. OR Tambo clearance, good morning. This is FAOR 650 with information Papa, requesting clearance to George Airport.
FAOR 650, Johannesburg delivery. Thanks for information, Papa. Expect runway 03 left, Grasmere 5 Bravo departure. Squawk 5660.
Cleared to George Airport. Expect runway 03 left on the Grasmere 5 Bravo departure. Squawk 5660, FAOR 650.
FAOR 650, read back correct. Contact ground 122.65 when ready for push or start.
Contact ground on 122.65 when ready for pushback and engine start.
Negative, ground on 122.65.
Ground 122.65. Alright, captains, and that was our clearance for today. So we are going to contact ground on 122.65. Just going to set that up and just get ready for pushback procedures. 122.65. Awesome, we are on ground. And then we can head back to our charts. So we have been given a SID for today, and that is the Grasmere 5 Bravo departure. So we are just going to have a look at that, and that heads to Gav. Just want to have a look at the flight plan. Okay, HGV, we don't have any Gav planned, but that's okay. We follow what ATC gives us. With that pinned, let's have a look at the initial climb that we have. So we have an initial climb to 8,000 feet, and then we'll be given further heights as we move along. Awesome. Alright, and then let's just key in our squawk code, which is 5660 5, then we can go 6 6 and 0. Awesome. And then we are good to set up our aircraft. So we'll be going to the FMC position initialization, and we are departing FAOR. The next page, copy the left IRS alignment and paste it there. And now we are aligned, our GPSs are aligned and have located us. Let's go to the route page. Origin airport is FAOR and we are going to FAGG. We are FlySafair, so it's our call sign is, let me remember, our call sign is SFR 650, and then we can insert that right there. Alright, with that being done, we can go to the next page and then just start keying in our waypoints. So like I did highlight from our routing page, our first waypoint is the HGV waypoint, so we are going to insert that, and then from HGV we are using Uniform Zulu 16, which is an airway, and we are going towards Neven. Alright, and then from Neven we are going to use Uniform Quebec 9, another airway, and then make our way to the Garlin or Charlene waypoint. Awesome. And then we are going to head direct GRV. Let's insert that, and then we are looking for George. Awesome. And then we can hit activate and execute. Now departures, we're going to go departure. We are departing 03 left, and we have been given the Grasmere, which is the GAF
Link
5
921 Lima,
Bravo.
Gate Charlie 4, request pushback.
And then we can just insert that and execute.
Link 921
And then
Lima,
in terms of
OR Tambo
our
International
arrival,
pushback approved.
we have planned for
Stay safe.
an arrival on runway 11, so ILS 11, and then we will
Pushback
use the
approved. Face
transitions
east. Link 921
when we
Lima.
do make our way closer to the arrival airport, so we can insert that. Let's head over to the next page and let's have a look at our flight plan. It's pretty interesting today because we have been given the Grasmere waypoint. So let's do the steps, check the waypoint, okay, and then let me just zoom out a bit. I want to see. Alright, so we'll see. Maybe we will be cleared direct Neven, and we'll just have to skip HGV, and then once we get cleared direct Neven, that will be awesome because we'll just make our way south and continue with our planned flight plan. So let's leave that discontinuity, as ATC will be giving us further directions. Let's continue, have a look, and then we will be making our way to runway 11, and then we should expect radar vectors that will be getting us aligned with our initial and final fix for the approach, and we make our landing on runway 11, so we can leave the discontinuity from GRV as well. Awesome, our flight plan
Ladies
looks
and
good.
gentlemen, welcome on board this self-loading cargo
Our
service.
aircraft is almost fully
Place your
loaded,
large bags into the
so
open
let's
cargo
just
room.
power up our APU
Pushback.
while we
Under
do
the
set
seat in
up
front of
other
you.
systems in
These
the
include
aircraft. So I'm
laptops,
going to turn on our
handbags,
forward
duty-free and loose
fuel
items
pump,
of clothing.
and then I am going to turn on
OR Tambo
the
International
APU
hold position for
To help us
traffic.
ensure a
and just
prompt
wait
departure, we would
and
kindly ask
start,
that you
and
keep
then
the aisle
the
clear,
APU can start
enabling
up
all
and
remaining
the
customers
exhaust
to
gas
for
temperature
traffic.
should
Your
start
seatbelt will
rising
now be
now to
fastened ready for
indicate that the
departure.
APU is starting
This
up.
is a no-smoking service. Thank you for observing
Link
this policy.
921 Lima, taxi for departure.
Link
There we go.
921 Lima,
APU
runway
is starting
03
up.
left taxi
Awesome.
via Bravo.
Right, now that we are done with our route, we can then
Runway
proceed
03 left taxi via Bravo. Link
go to
921
the
Lima.
performance initialization page and then head over to our right hand side FMC, go to payload, and let's have a look at our weights. So we have a zero fuel weight of 61.9, and this is in alignment with our flight plan, so that's perfect. So 61.9, insert that as our zero fuel weight, and that aligns our gross weights as well. In terms of our reserves on our flight plan, we do have a full res plus alternate of 3.6, and then we do have a contingency of 07.0.7, so 3.6 plus 0.7 gives us 4.3, and that would be our reserves. Cost index for today's flight is 67, so you can key that in. And then our block fuel weight is 9.5. Awesome. And then our cruising altitude for today's flight is 32,000 feet, so we'll go 320, insert that. Our winds, we have winds coming in from 220 at 16, and then our average ISA is positive 9. So adding 9 onto this will leave us with 39, so minus 39. Can insert that. Transition altitude is 8,000. We can hit execute. We can go to our N1 limit page, go to our tablet, and then perform our takeoff calculations. So performance, we are departing 03 left. Can import the weights from the aircraft and import the weather as well.
Link 921 Lima.
And then we can hit calculate. So we don't have a D-rated takeoff, and our selected temperature is 30.
Over to tower 118.1,
And
link
just make sure
921
we
Lima.
are awesome. And then under takeoff, next page, you can have a look. Our winds 164.
Safair 342, request taxi.
Can insert that. Just want to contrast this to what the 8 is giving
Runway
us.
03 left taxi via Bravo.
Awesome. And then our runway slope, we have
Runway
minus
03 left taxi
0.36.
via Bravo. Safair 342.
And then we do have dry conditions. So let's go to the next
Safair
page.
604.
Flaps
Charlie
5 departure.
Request pushback.
And then our CG for today's flight is 25.2.
Safair 604. OR Tambo apron. Pushback and engine start approved.
Awesome. Let's compare.
Face east.
We have 44, 48, 51. We have 43, 48. Awesome.
Pushback
Our
approved.
takeoff speeds
Face
are
east.
aligned.
Safair 604.
Then we can go to our legs page, route data, and then request the winds. Alright, we can load our wings and hit execute. Go to the descent page, clear the message, forecast, and then load our descent winds as well. And then we can hit execute. Awesome. Let's go back to our N1 page and then the takeoff. We have a trim for 4.94. So let's just set our trim.
Safair 342. Contact OR Tambo Tower 118.1.
4.94 for today's
Contact
flight.
Tower 118.1. Safair 342.
And that should be correct. Then let's have a look. Our APU is available. We can turn on the APU generators and then disconnect the ground power. Turn on all our fuel pumps because we've got fuel in all our tanks. And then our seatbelt signs can be switched to the on position.
Safair 604. Ready to taxi to the active.
Then with that done, let's head back to our top panel, turn on our probe heats as well as the window heats.
Safair 604. Runway 03
Then
left
we are
taxi
using
via
the
Bravo.
APU generator. That's good. And then we can
Runway
proceed
03
to
left
turn
taxi
on
via
our
Bravo. Safair
anti-collision light,
604.
turn on our flight directors. Okay, and then our V2 speed is 151. And our initial climb is 8,000 feet. and then we can proceed to arm the VNav as well as the LNav. Awesome. Hit engine. Let's just confirm with self-loading cargo and see how many of our passengers are boarding. So all passengers are on board. Awesome. Okay, and then we can ask GSX to start prepping for our pushback procedures, but before we do that, I just want to key in our cruising altitude, that being 32,000 feet, and then turn on our APU bleeds, as we are going to need them to start up the aircraft. Cabin utilities as well as the IAE screens can come on as well, and then we are good to go. Let's request preparation for pushback and departure. Yes, we can release the ground power. Co-pilot, please continue to request for pushback and engine start.
FAOR 650 at gate Alpha 13, request pushback.
All stations, please arm doors.
FAOR 650, OR Tambo Apron, pushback approved. Face south.
Alright, we have been cleared to face south.
FAOR 650.
So what we are going to do is go to the ground operations and then just remove the chocks.
OR Tambo Tower 118.1.
There are 2 emergency exits at the rear, 4 in the middle and 2 at the front of the cabin.
Contact Tower 118.1, FAOR
Please be aware
604.
that your nearest exit
There we
may be
go,
behind
got
you.
the sun coming up
In an
as well.
emergency, leave all cabin
Very
baggage
nice.
on board. Your seatbelt is fastened, adjusted and released as shown. It must be fastened when the seatbelt signs are on, and we recommend that you keep it fastened at all times. If the air supply fails, masks will drop from above you. Pull a mask towards you to start the oxygen. Put the mask over your nose and mouth, hold in place with the strap and pull on each side to adjust. Put on your own mask before helping others. If we land on water, take the life jacket from under your seat. Put it over your head. Pass the tapes around your waist, click together and pull the strap to adjust. Do not inflate it inside the aircraft. When outside, inflate by pulling the toggle. If it fails to inflate or needs topping up, blow into the tube. There is a light and whistle for attracting attention.
Alright, and we are to face
Use the
south.
carry flotation aids
I
to
love how
check.
powerful this pushback tug is, and we can raise such a heavy aircraft. Let's head
We wish
inside,
you a pleasant
start
flight,
our
and
clocks,
thank you for flying with self-loading
add some
cargo.
brake pressure, and we are releasing the parking brakes.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Started well.
Okay, we are clear of all obstructions. All the ground crew are aware. Can turn on our hydraulics. Awesome. And then let's start engine number 2. Once the N2 hits 20%, we will then introduce the fuel and hop outside to have a listen.
All aircraft be advised information Quebec now current. QNH1027.
Let's hop outside and just adjust our cameras. Very full airport this morning, a lot of traffic. Alright, let's have a look at our start switch. Our start switch is in the off position, indicating a good engine start. Let's go to our left engine, which is engine number 1, and let's start it up. Wait for 20% on the N2, and then we will proceed to introduce fuel as well. We've got 20% introduce fuel and hop outside. Alright, that's a good engine start. Let's set our parking brakes. Apply some brakes. Pull the parking brake
Waiting your
lever.
confirmation for a good engine start.
Confirm that we do have a good
Cockpit to
engine
ground.
start.
We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
Unlocking gear.
And then we can turn on our engine generators. Proceed to turn off the APU. Turn off the APU bleed, turn on the engine bleeds, turn on our packs as well as recirculated air. Awesome. Alright, we've got a flaps 5 departure today, so let's extend our flaps. So flaps 5. Let's just right, and you should see our flaps extending. There we go, have a look.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass been removed.
Okay, we can test our flight controls. Full left, full right, full up, and full down. Awesome. Our flight controls are good. Can clear the message. Auto throttle can come on. Okay, got our wave indicating that the plane has been removed and the ground crew has cleared their devices and we are good to taxi. So co-pilot, please request taxi to the active. Alright, and we can just adjust.
FAOR 650, ready to taxi to the active.
Get our map. Awesome. Because the ground crew has cleared the aircraft,
FAOR
let's turn on
650,
our taxi
runway
lights.
03 left taxi via Bravo.
Okay, we are taxiing to 03 via Bravo.
Runway 03 left taxi via Bravo. FAOR 650.
Can release parking brakes, introduce a bit of fuel, not more than 40%, bit of throttle I meant. Auto brakes can be turned to the RTO position. And we can have TA only. Perfect. Slightly pull back on the throttle. We've got to keep our taxiing speeds below 30 knots. But we do have a bit of an incline coming up, so we are going to need a bit of throttle power because we are flying a very heavy aircraft today. Like I said, we are almost 8 or 9 tons away from the maximum takeoff weight, so we are pretty heavy today. Also, we've beat our incline, throttles to the idle position, and our co-pilot should be requested to talk to tower.
FAOR 650, contact OR Tambo Tower 118.1.
Over to Tower 118.1. FAOR 650. Bye-bye.
Alright, then we will hold right here before making our turn. Let's set our parking brake and prepare our aircraft for takeoff. So we are going to turn on the weather and turbulence, switch to TARA, and then turn on the weather on my side and the terrain on the co-pilot side, increase his range, turn on our landing lights, flip our engines to the continuous position, and then turn on our strobe light. There we go. Our aircraft seems set, flaps are green, auto brake set to reject a takeoff, TARA set, and we are good. Co-pilot request the departure.
FAOR 650, ready for departure, runway 03 left.
FAOR 650, OR Tambo Tower, wind 180 at 4, fly heading 210, runway 03 left, cleared for takeoff.
Okay, we've been given heading 210.
Fly heading 210, runway 03 left, cleared for takeoff, FAOR 650.
Then we can go and turn on heading select, then turn off the LNAV. Awesome. Release the parking brake and let's get onto the runway and make our way out. Fuel juice throttle not more than 40%. Very heavy aircraft today. As you can see, we have no D rate, so we will be using almost all of our power to get out of here or to get up into the sky with the provided runway. Man, I love the way the sun is reflecting off the tarmac. This is incredible. South Africa is beautiful, guys. Yo, let's line up. Alright, let's hold. Okay, ensure that all our parameters are correct. TARA is on, weather and turbulence on, flaps are green, got flaps 5, rejected takeoff set, our lights are on, engines in the correct position, seatbelt signs are on. Okay, and with everything indicated in green, it does indicate that the crew is ready. Awesome. So let's get out of here. 50% throttle, system stable, slight nose down pressure.
Airspeed alive.
Alright. Past 8 knots.
Globe Alpha Oster, ready for departure, runway 03 left.
Globe Alpha Oscar, runway 03 left, line up and wait.
D1. Rotate. D2.
Runway 03 left, line up and wait.
Positive rate
Globe
of
Alpha
climb.
Oster.
Okay, positive rate of climb. Gear up. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let's hop back inside. Okay, get back on the flight directors.
FAOR 650, contact Johannesburg radar
Let's turn on the
123.7.
autopilot since we will be dealing with vectors.
Contact Johannesburg radar 123.7, FAOR 650.
Flaps 1 selected.
Johannesburg radar, FAOR 650, 6,900 feet.
FAOR 650, Johannesburg radar, identified, climb to flight level 160.
Okay, 160.
Climb to flight level 160, FAOR 650.
FAOR 650, cleared direct Nevin.
What's
We still own navigation.
flaps up. We have been cleared direct Nevin, so
Roger.
we can go to
Heading
our
direct
next
Nevin,
page
then resume own
and
navigation
then
Safair
select
650.
Nevin and set
Thanks.
it and execute and hit our LNAV as well as VNAV. Awesome, there we go. We passed our transition altitude. We can flip to the standard pressure. It's very nice. I did predict that we might get cleared direct Nevin, so
Ladies and gentlemen,
awesome.
please keep your seatbelts fastened while the seatbelt sign is on. We recommend that you keep your seatbelt fastened whenever you are seated. Toilets are
Nevin
located
is
at each end of the
80
cabin.
nautical miles away.
Remember that
Okay.
smoking is not permitted at any
Globe
time.
Alpha Oscar.
This includes e-cigarettes.
6,500
In just a few moments we'll commence our in-flight service,
Let's watch
offering you the
out
chance
for
to
our
purchase from our
10,000
selection of
feet
fresh food
marker.
available today.
Globe Alpha Oscar.
All details can be found in your in-flight brochure.
Identified.
You can
Climb to
also
flight
purchase a
level
selection of hot
150.
beverages together with drinks and snacks from the bar. We accept payment in pounds, euros,
Climb
most
to flight
major
level
currencies and debit
150.
or credit cards.
Alright, past
The
10,000
correct
feet
change would be
lights can
greatly
come off.
appreciated, and if we can be of any further assistance, then just ask us as we join you in the cabin
And our
shortly.
engines can go to
Thank
the
you.
off position. Awesome. Now all we have to wait for is clearance to our cruising altitude, and then we can proceed accordingly. But let's just hop outside to have a look at the sunrise.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, so you are now free to move around the cabin. However, for your safety, we do recommend that you remain seated
Oh,
without
what a
passing
beautiful
all times
morning
during
in
the
South
flight.
Africa.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. South Africa is so beautiful. Yo. I love South Africa. Wow. Yo. This is beautiful. Have a look at that. Slight fog in the morning. Ah, man, this is beautiful. Warm sun. Man. Sure. South Africa is stunning.
Safair 650. Contact Johannesburg Control West 118.5.
Center on 118.5. Safair 650. Have a good morning. Johannesburg Control West. Safair 650. Good morning. Crossing flight level 137 for flight level 160 direct Nevin.
Safair 650, Johannesburg Control West. Good morning. Radar contact. Climb to flight level 320.
Climb to flight level 320. Safair 650.
Alright, we've been cleared to 320.
Johannesburg Control West. Safair 342. Leaving flight level 154 for flight level 170.
Right, captains, like I do on all of my flights. Now that we are in climb phase and we are approaching our cruising phase as well, this is where I'm just going to hand over the aircraft to the autopilot and have it fly. I will be monitoring the systems in the background and just having a brief glance at how far we have until we hit the top of descent. But in the meantime, please do enjoy the views and enjoy the lo-fi chill music that will be playing in the background, and I will be back on the flight controls as we make our way down to our arrival airport. it. So see you soon.
let you know we will be starting our in-flight drinks service in a few moments. If you could please clear all aisles and ensure that any bags are placed in the overhead lockers, it would be most appreciated. Thank you. About to serve our hot drinks menu. Please make sure your tray table is in the down position and clear any items from the aisle. Thank
Get up 1 Charlie, runway 06. Report ready for descent.
Talk 1 Charlie, runway 06, ready for descent. Safair 342.
Safair 342, descent to flight level 080.
Descent to flight level 080, Safair 342.
Climb to flight level 170, Botswana 01.
Safair 342, contact Johannesburg, control east 119.9er.
Contact Johannesburg Control, East 119.9er, Safair 342.
control west. Expect get of 1 Charlie, runway 06.
Expect contact 1 Charlie, runway 06, Globe Alpha Oscar.
Increase speed to 250 knots.
Increase speed to 250 knots. Botswana 01.
Botswana 01. Contact Johannesburg Director 121.4.
Contact Johannesburg Director 121.4, Botswana 01.
Globe Alpha Oscar, you were assigned flight level 310. I show you at flight level 299er. Climb to flight level 310.
Wilco, climb to flight level 310, Globe Alpha Oscar.
Safair 394, Johannesburg control west. Expect get of 1 Charlie, runway 06. Expect contact 1 Charlie, runway 06, Safair 394. 39.9, Safair 394. Link 926 Quebec, Johannesburg, control west. Expect Nigger 1 Bravo. flight level 339er. Climb to flight level 350.
Wilco, climb to flight level 350, link 926 Quebec.
FAIR 650. Contact Cape Town, control east 124.7.
Contact Cape Town Control, East 124.7, Safair 650. Cape Town Control East, Safair 650. Good morning, flight level 320.
Flight 650, Cape Town Control East, radar contact.
congratulations, and I'm back in the seat. We are 10 minutes away from the top of descent. As you can see that we are supposed to hit it at 5:53 Zulu. We are at 5:43. We can just start prepping up our aircraft. Alright, so I am going to head on down to our legs page and then just grab our runway, which is runway 11, and add that to the fixed page. And then I just want to draw a 100 nautical mile radius so that I know when I am in range to listen in on the arrival airport's ATIS. Right, we are just also going to listen in on the ATC, and then we should be receiving our arrival clearance as well. If it does not, get provided within, let's say, 20 nautical miles, then I will just ask the co-pilot to call in ready for descent. But all is looking good for now. Sun's up, minus 13 degrees outside. It's pretty cold. So let's just continue to wait for the ATC to provide the arrival clearance, and then we'll action all items from there. Alright. You see that the stream overlay is not updating as it should. Let me just try and restart that, but then if it still doesn't work, then I'm just going to have to remove this overlay. Just restarting it. Alright, let's reduce the range to around 80 and we should be good here. not too sure how I forgot to retract the flaps from flaps 2. But anyway.
Safair 650, Cape Town Control East. Expect radar vectors, ILS runway 11.
Alright, and that's our clearance, so we are to expect radar vectors to ILS runway 11.
Expect radar vectors, ILS runway 11.
So we can have a
Safair
look at our
650.
charts. Search, arrival. And then approach, we have ILS 11. Going to open that up, and then our localizer frequency is 109.5. Can just key that in. Alright, and then our approach heading 114. Let's verify to this one. And then our approach altitude is 2040 feet, and then the minimum is 922, runway elevation 622, so we can set 600. 6. And then we have 922, so let's set 922.
Sierra Alpha Foxtrot Alpha India Romeo. Contact Johannesburg Control West 118.5.
Contact Johannesburg Control West 118.5, Sierra Alpha Foxtrot Alpha India Romeo.
There we go. And then you can go to the init page,
Flight 150,
full
Cape
flaps
Town Control
landing,
East.
can
Expect
set
radar
that.
vectors, runway 06.
Awesome. Co-pilot calling ready for descent.
runway 06, Safair 150.
Safair 650, ready for descent.
Flight 650, George landing runway 11.
George, landing runway 11, Safair 650.
We'll just descend to 10,000 feet. And then what I can do is just close this discontinuity by doing this and hitting execute so that we can get our profile correct. Cruise.
Cape Town Control East, Safair 462, flight level 360.
Flight 462, Cape Town Control East. Radar contact.
Descend to flight level 110, Safair 650.
We have been given clearance to 11,000 feet. Then just make our adjustment. And then let's just tune into the arrival ATIS to just get an understanding of the conditions as we arrive. So arrival ATIS is on 126. 220. Okay. Let me have a look at the chart again, just to possibly see an alternate frequency. 126.225. Okay.
India. 0522 Zulu. Wind variable. Temperature 17. Dew point 10. QNH 1016. VFR conditions. Landing and departing runway 11. Transition level 080. Bird activity in vicinity of airport. Advise on initial contact. You have information, India.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will shortly be landing. Please ensure your cabin bag is safely stowed with your laptop inside.
Arrival
Your tray table must be stowed, armrest down and window blind open.
Winds
You now need to be seated with your seatbelt fastened ready for landing.
But you should be
Please help us by handing in any rubbish, newspapers or magazines that you do not want to take with you. The toilets are no longer in service. Thank you.
And our transition altitude is flight level 080 for 8,000 feet, and execute. And then we can just adjust so that we do have our ATIS ready. We can also proceed to set our runway 11, our radius. Next page, set that, and then on this page we want a 10 nautical mile and a 5 nautical mile. Then previous page we want a 25, a 20, and a 15. Perfect. And then we can try and perform our landing calculations, see if it doesn't give us the error that we are too heavy. Full flaps landing.
Fire 150, radar vectors, runway 06. Report ready for descent.
Then landing. Let's see. Okay, that's fine. We will do a auto brake level 3 for landing. And then let's just see on our landing dispatch page, we do have 2.2 or 2.1 kilometers worth of runway for landing. let's just pop outside and have a look at the scenes. Then see the coast in the distance. Let's head back inside. Our range and get ready to slow down because delayed beyond ATC is delayed in its instructions, so I will continue to set 10,000.
Safair 650, contact George approach 128.2.
Contact George approach 128.2, Safair 650. George, Safair 650. Good morning. Flight level 111, we have India.
Safair 650, George approach, QNH 1016, expect radar vectors for ILS runway 11.
QNH 1016, expect radar vectors for ILS runway 11, Safair 650.
Safair 650, descend to 5,000 feet, QNH 1016.
Okay,
descend to 5,000 feet, QNH 1016, Safair 650.
Safair 650, turn right, heading 275 vectors for the approach. Expect further clearance in about 37 miles.
Turn right, heading 275,
okay,
Safair
right,
650.
275. Watch for our 10,000 foot marker and then turn on our landing lights. Below 10,000 landing lights can come on. So when we do go past the 15 nautical mile range, we will then begin to start setting our flaps accordingly. These scenes are beautiful. Yo.
All aircraft be advised information Juliet no current, QNH 1016.
Okay, we are below our transition altitude, that being 8,000 feet, so we can change our pressure setting. And then we can set the flaps 1 speed, so speed intervention, and then we'll set the flaps up speed. Are flying close to some terrain, so the co-pilot will just have to keep an eye out for the terrain ahead of us. Make sure that we are not flying into any mountains. There you go, it's marked in green, so we are still good, we are clear of the mountains.
Safir 650, turn right, heading 285.
Right, 285.
Turn right, heading 285, Safir 650.
Right, we can extend to flaps 1. We are pretty low, close to these mountains, eh? On our right hand side. But we are still clear even when we switch our radar to the terrain radar. Our numbers are still green and we've got some green shading, so we are still clear of these mountains. reduce our speed to flaps 1 speed.
Safair 650, descend to 4,000 feet.
Then being given 4,000.
Descend to 4,000 feet. Safair 650.
Flaps 5 coming up. So my rule of thumb is that flaps 1 speed is the top speed for flaps 5, so that's why I have engaged flaps 5, because when we do make our turn for our initial fix, we should be at flaps 5 accordingly to, you know, intercept the localizer and glide slope.
Safair 650, descend to 3,000 feet.
Okay, and given 3,000.
Descend to 3,000 feet. Safair
So
650.
we are going below the mountains, as you can see. We've got the indications.
Safair
On our
650,
radar.
turn left, heading 220.
Left 220.
Turn left, heading 220. Safair 650.
Oh, the scenes are beautiful. Look at the vegetation, the houses, the streams. This is beautiful. Let's have a look outside quickly. Ah, this is incredible. Wow, 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 wow. Wow.
Safair 650, descend to 2,500 feet.
Okay, we've been given 2.5.
Descend to 2,500 feet. Safair 650.
Safair 650, 4 miles from CI11, turn left, heading 125, maintain 2,500 feet until established on the
125.
final approach course. Cleared ILS runway 11.
And we've been cleared on the ILS. We have intercepted the localizer, so we can
Turn
on
left,
the
heading
localizer.
125. 2,500 feet until established. Cleared ILS runway 11. Safair 650.
Safair 650, contact George Tower 118.9. Have a good morning.
Can begin
Contact
to
Tower
reduce our speeds.
118.9. Safair 650.
More flaps can come out, and then let's just also drop our gear.
George Tower, Safair 650. ILS runway 11.
Safair 650, George Tower, wind 060 at 3, runway 11 clear to land.
There we go.
Runway 11 cleared to land. Safair 650.
Alright, we are on the localizer. We can also hit approach mode. And we are on the glide slope, almost 5 nautical miles out from the runway. Stand our speed brake to slow down the aircraft. $144. So we'll leave it at 145. Full flaps deployed. Speed brake armed. Gear down. 5 nautical miles out. Runway is in sight. And let's make our way down. Engines can be turned to continuous. Gear light can come on. and we are good. $1,000 feet away. Autopilot off. Aircraft is under my control. Keep her in the center. Then make our way slightly above the glide slope, so that we are not too low for this one. Get back on center. Make our adjustments. There we are on center. Keep the aircraft like that. We are good. Happy lights are indicating that we are good on our glide.
Approaching minimum.
There we go. Center up.
Minimum. Terrain.
Continue for aiming point. Then continue to make our way down.
100.
There we go.
50. 30. 20. 10.
That was a hard landing. Full reverses out. Manual brakes. Reverses can be tapped in. There we go.
FAIR 650, exit next available taxiway.
Let's just slow down.
Exit next available taxiway, FAIR 650.
Auto brakes can come off.
Ladies and gentlemen, the cabin crew will shortly be leaving their seats to perform safety-related duties. However, we ask that you remain seated until the seatbelt sign has been switched off. Portable electronic devices for messaging, calls, or internet access may now be used. Please make sure that you take all your personal belongings with you, checking in the seat pocket, underneath the seat, and in the overhead lockers. Do take care when opening the lockers in case anything falls out. Smoking is not permitted until you reach a designated smoking area. On behalf of the captain and the crew, it has been our pleasure looking after you today. Our ground crew will help you complete your self-loading cargo journey. For the latest news, promotions, flight and destination information, check out our
Ground
official Facebook page, Twitter, or the official
FAIR
self-loading
650.
cargo app.
Have a good morning.
Thank you.
Terrain radar can come off. Can switch to TA. Strobe lights can come off. Engines off position. And we are good. Co-pilot request taxi to the gate. Ramp A4.
FAIR 650. Request taxi to assigned gate.
FAIR 650, ramp Alpha for taxi via Alpha 3, Alpha.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated until the captain turns off the seatbelt sign. Once that happens, we will
Ramp
start
Alpha 4
boarding
via
and be
Alpha
able to
3.
use the aircraft.
Alpha, FAIR
Thank you.
650.
A bit of throttle. And let's taxi away. Okay, our ramp is in sight. Can turn off the runway turn off lights. APU can come on. Alright, we're about to make our turn. Taxi lights can come off. So we are going to ramp Alpha 4. Proceed to make our turn. Slow down the aircraft. It's a bit of a tight turn. Alright, make sure the whole body is over the line and bring it
All
in.
aircraft be advised information kilo now current. QNH1016.
Right, that should be good enough. Put up our parking brake. Let's set our chocks.
Launch the manual and cross-check.
Ground power can be requested. APU is available. Turn on the APU gens and turn off our engines. Also, seatbelt signs can come off. Anti-collision light can come off.
The boarding requested.
There we go, and deboarding has been requested. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to George Airport. Before we're going to conclude on this flight, I just want to pull through our Pilot's Life Chapter 2 rating so that we can see how we fared on that landing. But other than that, the aircraft can be deboarded. So okay, deboarding has been requested, and then we can just pull through our flight information
Passenger's bus is coming.
and see how we did on this flight.
Ladies and gentlemen, your portable electronic devices must not be used until you are inside the airport. When disembarking, please take care and hold onto the handrails while walking down the stairs. Please ensure that you supervise your children, and for your own safety do not
We
walk
might
on
get
the floor.
penalized for the flaps
Thank you.
and a hard landing, but let's just have a look.
Passengers, the boarding started.
Alright, not too bad at all. We got penalized for the approach speed. We're doing a little over 200 knots, but that's okay. Our landing, I assumed it was hard based on how it felt from the aircraft, but I guess that's not the case. So we do have a landing rate of 138 feet per minute, which is pretty good. And we've got a landing G-force of 1.27 Gs. So we've scored 98% on this flight. As you can see there, we are rated out of 100, so 98% is pretty good flight. Let's just have a look at our landing details, and let's increase this size and let's have a look. Pretty short runway, so we came in accordingly. Touchdown after our touchdown markers, that's why we had to slow down so quickly, but we still had enough runway anyway. So just a little over our touchdown markers, but we were on center and we managed to make it to our parking spot. Fairly good, very nice scenery around here. At least we got to fly past the mountains, and these mountains over here made our come in okay. So this is where the initial approach was taken from. Not bad though, not bad at all. I'm pretty happy with this one. We can close this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our arrival at George Airport. Just wanted to say thank you for all the viewers who keep coming back and watching these videos every time I post, as well as just to say thank you and welcome all the new viewers who have found my channel and are enjoying the content as well. I really do appreciate your support, and I just wanted to let you know that every split second put into watching these videos really goes a long way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our flight for today. I trust that you enjoyed this flight as much as I enjoyed flying this flight with you. We got to experience the incredible scenes coming into George Airport, and I guess then we will be experiencing incredible scenes again as we make our way out, heading back to OR Tambo International Airport on our next flight. I really look forward to seeing you soon and flying these aircraft again. Goodbye.